Books on Tape presents Shanks for Nothing by Reilly. Read by Stephen Hoye. Chapter 1. I distinctly remember the day my life started smother-hooking toward hell. It was just another day of gentlemanly golfing competition among the chops at Ponkaquag Municipal Golf Links in Delhi, known across the land as America's worst golf facility. It was our usual fivesome: Two Down, Hoover, Cementhead, Danny, the hot-tempered, hot-blooded little five-handicap who also doubled as my wife, and me. "Are those shorts heavily padded?" Danny asked Cementhead. "What's it to you?" Cementhead said. "'Cause I'm about to give you a serious butt-kicking." Across the way, the hyper-Leonard Two-Down Petrovitz, half man, half cappuccino, was locked in mortal combat with me in a game of $20 one-down automatic press bets. Of course, he couldn't have been too worried, since he was beating me like Liza's ex. I'd given him half a shot a hole, plus a 100-yard head start on every hole, plus one throw aside. And yet, just because he was beating me didn't mean he was going to stoop to any gamesmanship. "I see you changed your putter since last time," Two Down observed. "I guess that last one didn't float so good." "Keep it up, Chirpy," I said, "and you'll be joining it." Ponky was famous around Boston for three things. Number one, being full of morons who bet way more than they had. Number two, being to golf what Velveeta was to French culinary schools. Number three, being next door to one of the great courses in America, the blue-blooded, high-hatted Mayflower Club, whose members were so choosy about who they accepted they simply stopped letting people in 3 years ago. The line around town was, not even the original Pilgrims could get into the Mayflower now. Since Ponky and the Mayflower were built in the 1900s, one by Donald Ross and one by Ronald Ross, a small mistake made by the city fathers, the two courses had moved in opposite directions from birth, until one became the very symbol of posh blue-blood aristocracy and the other of fried egg sandwiches. Now, the only thing that separates the Mayflower and Ponky is a 12-foot-high red brick wall, a whole lot of deb balls, and general good breeding. The Mayflower was so stuck up it had refused to even host a U.S. Open or a PGA or a Ryder Cup, despite being begged. Never, that is, until 5 years ago, when it agreed to finally lower itself to play host to the greatest players in the world at the U.S. Open, which would descend upon it the following summer. Not that they didn't have events. They had their lavish pilgrimage every year, and their heritage hoopla, and their member, never a member guest. And whenever they hosted such prestigious events, they rented Ponky's course out to park all the Bentleys that strutted through. For the month after, you'd get tire-track lies in the middle of the fairways. But what could we do? We were privately owned by the cheapest man in the world, Froghair. Froghair got his name for his length off the tee, which was none at all. He averaged about $1.80. He was straight, though, so we said he led the tour in FIR. Froghair in regulation. Froghair would rent Ponky out to Islamic Hamas if he thought he could get an extra $37 out of it. It always delighted us to see those numerals. You know, your Worth Havemeyer the third and your Gray Stoneham the fourth get out of their cherry cars and take a look around at the 18-hole municipal dump that is Ponky. We loved to watch their faces react in horror at the course we played every day, the abandoned 57 Jello-green Chevy near the 8th tee, sitting as it did just under the half of a Boston Globe billboard that jutted out over the tee box. We giggled to see them hurry away from our battleground practice range, where bad golfers hailed cut, yellowed practice balls at Nuke, our range boy. Froghair wouldn't pay to have the range tractor fixed, so Nuke was out there 8 hours a day, wearing 2 twin-size mattresses roped together and fitted to his skinny body, a lacrosse helmet with a face mask and a shag bag in each hand. "Hey," Froghair always said in defense, "the kid's a stoner. He doesn't even feel it." and it gave us a kick to see Boston's gentry get an eyeful of the unshaven community outside the Ponky fences. The pawn shops and strip bars along our 18th hole bordering Geneva Avenue, the ratty blue-collar cemetery out our front windows, the spirited youth who populated the Roosevelt Park projects off 5 and 13, having their innocent fun with needles and small arms fire. Over the last 100 years, every inch of this part of Dorchester had gone from debutante to drugstore whore, except the Mayflower, which just kept building its walls higher and higher until it couldn't see out anymore, which is just how they liked it. But screw them. I wouldn't have traded one of them for a single chop. I loved Ponky. I guess because my dad was a member of the Mayflower, and until the last 3 years, I hated my dad the way mailmen hate Dobermans. Anyway, on this particular Thursday, it was the usual cast of ex-outs and out-of-round humans who probably should have been taken out of play years before. 120 yards behind us, Hoover, our fifth, was taking his sweet time hitting his shot, despite playing against nobody for no bet at all. "Why don't he hit the goddamn thing already?" Danny said, exasperated. "He's already pulled a JFK Jr." "What's a JFK Jr.?" asked Cement. 3 lost in the water. "I believe it's your turn, Hoove," Danny yelled, knowing all the while that there was no such thing as turns at a free-for-all, etiquette-less joint like Ponky. It'd be like one hyena saying to another over a downed zebra, "I believe it's your turn, Herman." But Hoover was back in the fairway on one knee, holding his latest gadget, the new GPS-enabled SuperTech Bushnell Laser Rangefinder 3000, up to his right eye and making sure the yardage was exactly 176 and not 177, even though Hoover could not hit a green from 17 yards, much less 177. He was going to get his yardage all lined up and then smother toe it left, or hosel it right, or cold top it 5 feet. There was a reason we called him Hoover. He sucked. "What are you, Patton?" Two Down yelled. "Hit the fucking ball!" Hoover rose and yelled back. 7% of all shots failed due to lack of precise yardage. That was in this month's Scientific Golf America. Then he stepped up and chunked it about 20 yards, or about 2 yards short of his divot. "And 93% of all shots fail 'cause Hoover sucks like Linda Lovelace," Danny said to nobody in particular. So here we were on the 17th, with me down 3, down 2, and down 1 to 2 down, and needing this hole to have any chance of saving the Claudette Cold Beer Fund. Still, 2 down was lying 4. I was lying 2 right in front of the green. He was taking a long look at his difficult sand shot. All sand shots at Ponky are difficult on account of there being no sand in Ponky's bunkers. When he announced, "I haven't had my throw yet, right?" I was hoping he'd forgotten. "Yeah, that's right," I grumbled. "You get 1 throw aside." And 2 down got out of the bunker, walked over to my ball, picked it up, and threw it over the 12-foot-high hedge into the Mayflower Country Club. Then he returned to his shot without comment. One really needs to think out all bets with 2 down in advance. As we came to the picturesque 18th hole at Ponky, with its unforgettable view of Manelli's dry cleaners on the left, I was down $200 all day to 2 down. I needed something big on the last hole to bail me out. 2, I need to get even. 2 looked at me and said quite firmly, "Okay, you know what? No." "But you haven't even heard it yet," I said. "Unless the get even is you chew off your left hand before you play this last hole, I don't want any part of it." "No, it's better than that. I'm offering you a simple wager." If there is one thing a true chop will not turn down, it's the offer of a simple wager. A true chop will bet on all things at all times. Would that guy eat his ear of corn like a typewriter or in a wheel around it? What odds will you give me that I can't chip one onto the clubhouse roof, run around to the other side, and catch it in my mouth? Odds were set at 12 to 1 against. One time on a rainy day, Two Down and Dom bet $10 on who would swing first on Jerry Springer.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?